Hey everyone, it's Ian from the Postal Hub Podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile
And
Experts.
we are the last mile prophets, and we're going to open a bit of a can of worms today. We're going to talk about Rico Back. What was your first impression when you saw the news that he had been given the elbow?
I wasn't surprised, Ian, and I haven't met him personally, but I've seen what he's done, and by the way, a lot of good stuff at GLS.
Because
But
he's had a huge history at GLS, hasn't he? It's not that he's just descended from the Clouds or McKinsey or one of those sort of groups to then run a post. He's got a huge history running, building up GLS.
absolutely, for those of you who are not in the picture, GLS was a company acquired by Royal Mail several years ago. I won't say small, but it was let's say a mid-sized player in Europe that grew to be very, very strong from German roots. And the success, I think, it was quite different to DPD. The success was related to the fact that it was so centralized, standardized, efficient, like a great German machine.
Right.
And the thing about Rico is he was renowned, at least on the outside, and maybe people who were on the inside could comment, as being, a bit of a martinet. Ordnung muss sein. This is how it's going to be, my way or the highway.
A crash-through style of management,
But
perhaps.
very successful. Made it happen, and no one can question that he had, a great success with that organisation.
But then when it came to the Royal Mail, the Royal Mail has its own, whilst the Royal Mail is privatised, it has a lot of the vestiges, shall we say, of, is that the right word? Of a government-owned post.
For example, the amazing strength of the
unions. The unions have an incredible amount of strength. I mean, it's a typically it's a unionised workforce, and that often happens when you've got large workforces, especially if it's come from a government body. The large workforce is unionised, and the union has strength. And for better or worse, he had something of a continued series of run-ins with the union, if I understand correctly.
And I think, Ian, the thing is, if you're going to go union bashing, then you need to be sensitive about how you do it, particularly if you're
sensitive
not
union bashing. I've never heard this before.
So, my view is probably this, and I'm not going to discuss who's right or wrong. And I see benefits. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but when I was restructuring a company in Poland for a large postal operator, it was actually the local unions who were super smart guys who saved that company and several thousand jobs. So, I'm by no means someone that will say unions don't make sense, full stop. I think unions make sense when they are partners in discussion, but it takes two to tango.
Yeah, I've seen that in Australia, that there have been times when the union has worked with Australia Post to effect great change that has helped Australia Post. We're talking about a while ago now, but helped Australia Post transform itself in order to continue to function. Instead of being an organisation stuck in the 1970s, it was able to transform itself into effectively one of the first 21st century postal operators. But there were always people sort of having a chip at Rico Back, and it seemed to be they would find any excuse to have a go at him, which always made me think, well, there's something going on in the background. There's some reason why they don't like him, that they're prepared to publicly attack him.
Ian, was it £6 million or something he got as his golden welcome?
A golden hello. So those things are always going to be, dare I say it, red rags to a bull when it comes to unions who are saying, well, hang on, you're being paid a lot of money and you want us to either not take a pay rise or reduce the workforce. I saw that there was a very successful CEO of Poste Italiane who basically, as soon as he came in, he said to the unions, right, well, he sorted out the union trouble straight away as a way to basically give himself and the organisation breathing space to be able to think about what happens next. Okay, let me clarify that. Where there have been existing disputes with the union, it might be about pay or conditions or whatever it might be, and they've just gone to the bargaining table with the union and said, right, we want to reach agreement quickly, and the post might have had to give a bit of money away effectively to the employees, but it meant that the employer workforce was bought into the change that was going to happen. Have I expressed that better?
I think so. Ian, the key thing in my view with unions and workers in a whole is about being open. And I'm not sure, again, it would be interesting to get feedback from Royal Mail. Is Rico the sort of guy who would take his tie off, sit down on a table in a sort of a town hall meeting and talk openly with grassroots employees? I'm not sure. And I think it's part of it is about giving things away, but also about being a real partner who cares. The most difficult thing I had to do in my life was to convince several thousand people to take a 25% pay cut overnight, more or less. And I remember at the time, everyone said, Marek, are you crazy? Because I went, stood in front of the people, showed them the exact results, no bullshit, excuse my language. And you know what? People were really great. When they realized, and I said, if anyone has a better idea, by all means, let's talk about it. No one did. And without a strike, without an issue, everybody took the pay cut. What I did, though, as well, and I think good, and this isn't about me being special, good managers will do it. You take a cut yourself, because you cannot do that. You cannot take 6 million golden welcome, whatever you call it, and then tell people, hey, we've got to cut your salaries, which are, minuscule compared to that, in my view.
Yeah, the other thing that sort of made me wonder what was really going on was that only in the last year, Royal Mail announced it was investing, what was it, £1.8 billion. It was an astronomical figure in renewing its parcel delivery network. And so it says, well, that sort of raises more questions for me. So if they've announced that sort of a project, why would you remove the head?
Things, Ian, for me, and again, let's see what comments we get. It must have been really bad, because you don't do that, and you don't do it from day to day unless there's something really serious happening.
Well, I look forward to reading and censoring the comments on this. I know that people usually make constructive comments when we put out these videos. So share your comments. I mean, speak broadly. I'll be really interested to hear what people have to think about things like how you manage relations with employee groups, how you then take employees or other partners, I should say this as a post office person, whether it's the franchisees or whatever sort of arrangement you have in your post office world, how do you take all these stakeholders along on a journey if you need to transform, whether it's a post, whether it's a parcel operator or any kind of big company, how do you do it? And was that a contributing factor to a downfall of someone who'd enjoyed a huge amount of success? Let's be perfectly blunt.
And if I can have one request from my side, I'd love it if we could get some feedback from union leaders, because actually we get managers, we get operators and so on. I've never yet seen a comment from a union leader, and it would be great to get their input, whether it's a postal union, whether it's a UPS, FedEx union. My favourite, for historic reasons, is the Swedish Post Union. So if there are any of you Swedish Post union members out there, I'd love to hear from you. And I think it would be really interesting. So
continue the conversation in the comments section. Marek Różycki from Last Mile Experts, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone. Hey, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode of The Last Mile Profits.
Make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and also the notifications bell so you get a notification every time we add a new video to this channel. Look forward to sharing more stuff with you on The Last Mile Profits.